Hi, Kent. Very nice to meet you. Thank you very much for joining me today. How are you?
Good, Joseph. Thanks for inviting me. Yeah, no, going good over here.
Thanks again for being here. Really appreciate it. Kent, before we jump in, can you tell me a bit about yourself, how you discovered carnivore? How did it all start for you?
Yeah, cut a long story short, it started around 2020. I'd been fairly much plant-based or along that philosophy since the late 1970s. So that's how long the PSYOP's been around. It's been around for a long time, and I brought into it big time. So I was vegetarian, I know, in 1981 because I remember it well because I was training very, very hard, playing rugby league, and I was also working at a very physically demanding job as a British labourer in the heat up in North Queensland, so very, very hot. And I was vegetarian back in those days, and I remember one day struggling to get out of bed and struggling to get up the steps of the house. That's how weak I was from that diet. I was eating a lot of soybeans. I remember that, soaking them and doing all the good stuff with that. So that I had breaks off plant-based things because I remember going to a mine site and all the guys are really happy and strong and all that, and they're all eating meat. So I thought I'll eat meat for a while. So I started eating meat again, and then with all the propaganda out there, I went back to the plant-based lifestyle, and I was vegetarian again at around about 40 years old, and I was playing competitive touch footy at that stage, and I was performing pretty well. Actually, I was, at 40, I was one of the top athletes, if not the top athlete in the comp. Still quick, still fit, but then the wheels fell off. I think about 6 months later. So that was 2 years vegetarian. Then the last 20 years plant-based. Three kids under five, so got pretty busy. A lot of stress in my life at work. A lot of stress. I work in the underground mining area, and it's very dangerous, very aggressive environment with very aggressive people. So that was 20 years, and we were pretty much plant based. We'd eat vegetarian must be once a week, and my health was gradually getting worse. I put that down to what I'd done in the past with alcohol and injuries and antibiotics and anti-inflammatories, all that sort of stuff. My stomach was shot. So for 20 years, from 2000 to 2020, lack of sleep, rashes all over my body. Yeah, it was pretty bad. About 2016, I sort of had enough of it. I was like, well, there's no point, sort of, to a certain extent, living because my quality of life is terrible. I go to bed, I don't know if I'm going to sleep, I wake up itching. Every morning I felt like I had the flu, like every week. And that was, now that I know a lot about this stuff, the flu is basically toxins releasing. And it normally happens at the end of a season, beginning of a new season. So the toxins release from your body. And I was releasing toxins all the time. I had so much in there from the abuse of alcohol and stuff and other stuff. The diet wasn't helping, and you're getting desperate. I was about to go, watch the Game Changers, which is a pretty famous vegan movie. I believed it, thought, all right, I'm going vegan, and doubling down on what I was doing because at the time I was making my own kombucha, sauerkraut, got a $900 juicer, twin bevel, slow turning, all that sort of stuff. I was taking supplements, you name it. I was trying to do it to get healthy, but very much along the plant-based way. So the Game Changers came along. I thought that's great that these guys are doing pretty well. It's obviously when you look into it, it's not quite true. And as I went to go into that, I thought I better just check on this. And I saw a video. I think it was by Paul Saladino and someone else. It was a 2 hour video debunking the whole movie scientifically and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I saw that, and then I did a little bit of research on carnivore and went carnivore the next day. So that was in, I think, March 2020. So that's been approximately 6 years, over 6 years now. So and yeah, I went cold turkey. which maybe I wouldn't recommend to other people, but I didn't know any better. I didn't do much research. So I went cold turkey, but only had 3 days of symptoms, where I had a bit of keto flu and that sort of stuff. So it's pretty good. I was a massive carbohydrate addict, whether it's quinoa or porridge or sugar or honey or whatever. I had a massive sugar addiction all my life, and I could get away with it. I never put on weight because I was exercising so much and working so hard. I could never put on weight. So that was a bonus. There was never a problem with weight. It was just, obviously sugar's not real great for you. Every 2 hours I'd need a top up, and that was just life. But I never thought I'd get off the carbs. I always thought it was just going to be too hard. I always looked around and I must need to get off this sugar. But I could never see how I could do it. But when I went carnivore, I kicked the habit and kicked it easily. It wasn't a big deal. It was just bang. I just lost the lust for that food. I can see the food now and not even want it. Where before I couldn't walk past it. I couldn't go to a coffee shop at any time of the day and not have a cake or something like that. So I just loved my sweets and with a coffee, all that sort of stuff. So that's basically look, the other thing about plant-based stuff is that I brought my kids up really, really healthy. They're in the top 5% if you want to look at it that way. And now I've got 2 kids with type 1 diabetes. So they didn't thrive on it, that's for sure. They still ate meat, but there was a heavy component of eating your sprouts, eating your vegetables, pushing that down their throats. Thinking I was doing the right thing, but in hindsight, once you do the research, it's not the right thing. It's the kids know, as we all did, that the kids don't like vegetables. They don't want to eat them when they're young. They think it's horrible. And I was the same when I was growing up. We used to hide my peas under the potatoes, and I used to throw them on the floor. And Brussels sprouts were the same, most revolting things ever. But you were forced to eat them even back in the 60s when I was growing up because they're good for you. I don't know where that came from. Obviously it come from somewhere. So been carnivore now for 6 odd years. I've been doing blood. Luckily I did blood tests before I went carnivore, and then I've done blood tests ever since. Obviously because protein's bad for your kidneys, I had to do a bit of research into that because I've only got one kidney, which they found in when I was 45 years old. I had an alcohol-related issue with my stomach, pretty serious pain for a long, long time. And they found one kidney, which I wasn't aware of at the time. So because protein's bad for your kidneys, I thought I'd better do some research on that. I've got all my blood test results and all that I do them at least once a year. And my kidney function has gone up from when I was plant-based. I read it 76 EGR, I think is the name of it. And I'm well over 90 now. So my kidney function's actually improved on this high protein diet. And a lot of the times I've been just about what do you call a lion diet. I stopped coffee, dairy for the first 3 or 4 years. I stopped everything. Well, not so much coffee, but definitely dairy. I cut dairy out, cut eggs out because I had a stomach test in 2016 that showed I had leaky gut and I was allergic to dairy and eggs. So I stopped all that. I reintroduced that about 2 years ago, dairy and eggs. And then the rashes sort of came back. But when I went carnivore, the diet helped a lot, no doubt about it. I kept everything under control. I didn't remove everything, but it was under control where I could sleep most nights. The rashes were better. So everything improved. A lot of things improved. As I said, I've done the blood test to show people that there has been improvement because people go, this is dangerous. Well, my blood test suggests that it's not dangerous. It's actually really good for me because I've had 7 markers improve. And I've been doing a little bit of blood tests. So I had a bit of information to fall back on. And then it's good when people say, oh, that's dangerous. Well, not according to my blood test, it's not. Everything's good. The only thing is cholesterol, but once you sort that out, then that's not a drama either. So yeah, I've been quite lucky. After I just, as you're most very aware, I've just done a 30-day water fast, and the kidney function, a few other things went back down a bit to the 80s and 70s, but that's back to normal now. So the kidney function's right back to normal. So yeah, amazing, really. The bounce back that I've had from what's been going on over the last, over 8-9 months now. I think I've had this bit of an issue, put it mildly. That's my little story, short and sweet.
So Kent, you have quite a journey with this lifestyle, and you've been carnivore since 2020. And you've also done plant-based. You've been plant-based for a while, since the 80s. Were you ever skeptical of carnivore? I know you mentioned about doing the research. Like, how long did you do the research for before jumping onto it, to the carnivore?
Not very long at all. I saw a couple of people talking about it, and I thought, because I was desperate at the time. I was getting to the point where, as I said to you, life wasn't really worth living. But it was like, I've got children, so I can't take the easy way out. But yeah, life was pretty. Quality of life was terrible. I couldn't see my way out of it. Been 20 years of going to people, specialists, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, didn't do much research. Maybe I listened to a couple of people and off I went. But I've done a lot of research since, because you are programmed into meat's bad for you, meat causes cancer, meat's they just vilify and have for all my life, the vilified meat. So we're talking since the 60s, 70s, definitely. A vilified meat, and vegetables are good, and vegetables fix everything, and fruit's good for you, all that sort of stuff. So since starting Carnivore, I've done a heap of research, because there was always that nagging doubt. I'm recommending this to people and stuff like that, and I wanted to make sure that I was recommending something that was legit, because obviously in the past I've recommended plant-based stuff and avocados and sprouts and green juices and all that crap, and I've been wrong. So with this thing here, I've always I try to make sure that I'm not wrong, that I am right, because I don't want to recommend anything to anyone that could, because I've been caught out before by bullshit and propaganda. So I've done a lot of research since then. After about 2 or 3 years, I realised that it's really simple. This is a species-appropriate diet. I don't like the word carnivore diet. I want to get rid of that word. It sounds like a fad. It sounds like something unusual. It's a species-appropriate diet. What we're eating is a species-appropriate diet. Simple as that. Throw a few plants in there maybe as a backup, but we are meant to eat animal-based. The other stuff, the plants and all that, are backup for when we can't get a meal from hunting. And look, even in my lifetime, I grew up in New Zealand. It's a cold climate. I never had an avocado until I came to Australia. Never saw one, never heard of it. This wasn't around, and we're talking in the 70s and 80s. They just weren't around. Because of shipping and all that sort of stuff. So I never ate an avocado until I came to Australia in the 80s, and people didn't know what, a lot of people didn't, when they'd see me eating an avocado, what's that? And they didn't know what it is. So avocados are, and that's the same with everything. Avocados are new to our species, unless you live in the tropics somewhere. And so people don't realise that. The people growing up now eat an avocado every day, as I did. I'd have avocado on toast and avocado with everything, because avocados are a healthy fat and all that sort of stuff. But we never had that before the last 30 years, I suppose. It just couldn't be shipped around the world and all that sort of stuff. And the same with fruit. Fruit was seasonal in New Zealand. We ate strawberries at Christmas. We had apples when apples were in season, and that was it. It was in season. So the people growing up now don't understand that. They don't understand that all this stuff is new. It's not what we've done our whole lives. and everyone's addicted to it, basically, to taste and pleasure and all the stuff that's good for you, which in reality it isn't good for you. It's simple as that. So yeah, I'm in the species appropriate diet thing, and that's why I like to call it instead of carnivore. Carnivore gets a bad rap, and it does sound like just another diet. So yeah, it's what we're meant to eat. If you're lucky enough, you can have an avocado every now and then and knock yourself out. It's not going to kill you every now and then, but having them every day is just not what we're designed to do. You know, it's just not appropriate to our species. So yeah, that's why you get a whole bunch of problems from it. So you've done a heap of research. I've got a manual out there. If anyone wants my manual, I'll put a manual together. There's 70 odd pages of links and stuff to any topic you can think of. So if anyone wants that, reach out. I've got it there to help people.
Yeah. Wow. Absolutely. I agree. Carnivore, human appropriate species diet. Yeah, absolutely. Kent, so, you mentioned that I think around 40, when you were 40 years old, your health's pretty much deteriorating and, experiencing so many health issues, like because you've done, very demanding job and also being very active athletically. What was the specific, the main reason why you started Carnivore? Was this anything specific, or was it like a mix of everything?
I was just trying to improve my health, really. I was desperate. I know in 2016 I was really desperate. I was just like, what's the point? So I kept going for another 4 years, doubling down. But realistically, it was all about just having a go at something, And it was so alien, eating meat and that's it. It was against everything I'd been brought up on and brainwashed into. So it was a sort of big change in a way. It was going against everything that society has pushed down our throats for the last 30 or 40 years or longer. So for me, it was and because I was plant-based and believed in all that stuff, it was a big change. So it was just desperation. I just had to try to do something because my quality of life was terrible. There was a whole bunch of stuff when you get into it, but the diet definitely helped. I tracked it. I had about 20 markers I was tracking at the time, HRV and a whole bunch of other blood pressure, all sorts of stuff I was tracking just so that I wouldn't get sucked into the placebo effect of it. So I tracked everything just to make sure that I wasn't making stuff up and I could see improvements and so it was before and after shots. So I did a lot of that. After about a year, I gave up because everything had improved and things had got better. I was looking pretty good. Physically, I was going all right. A lot of people saw the results I got and jumped on board. Most of the people I know now are animal-based, but not 100% carnivore or anything like that. They have put a lot of more meat in their diet. That's my kids, friends, and some remarkable results around people that have done this way of life. There's been some great results, and all of them realise that eating a bit of meat is actually good for them. So that's a positive. It's brushed off on quite a few people just by leading by example. I wouldn't ram it down everyone's throat. I'd just lead by example. And at 65 years of age, I got down at the beginning. I dropped down to around about 71 kilos. I can't put that in pounds, but anyway, I dropped down quite a bit. Very low fat. And I thought, well, I'm getting a bit older now. I better start doing some weights, and because I'd had to stop exercising because of arthritis in my hip. So I started to do weights. I got up to about 81 kilos and I think 16% body fat. So I put muscle on at 65. So anyone that says you can't put muscle on as you get older is not eating the right diet, most probably. But so I started putting muscle on, a little bit of fat. So I got up to 16% fat and 81 kilos. My peak when I was playing football, I'm only 173 centimetres, so about 5'8". And at my peak, I was about 85 kilos, which is quite solid. I was playing rugby league, and I had very low fat at 85 kilos, so it was my peak, as muscular-wise and athletic-wise. But then, got a bit crook last year and then dropped a whole bunch of weight.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's a very good record, health-wise. So when your health started to deteriorate, did you had any assumption what was the root cause of those health issues? Could it be like a certain food trigger, or maybe because of the stress level environment? I know you mentioned, with the family, with the work related, the stress. Did you think it might be genetic related before carnivore, right? So.
Yeah, no. I suppose for everyone's knowledge, I did get crook last October, and me and the wife did a pretty intense motorcycle ride in the heat, about 7 or 8 hour day. We rode from here up to Cairns sort of thing, and up to the Tablelands, and it was very hot. And I didn't take any snacks. Normally I travel with fat pills or fat and beef jerky. So on the way up, we stopped and had a coffee, which I don't do much of these days at all. And because I had no snacks, I had a brownie. I thought, one brownie ain't going to hurt. Drove the rest of the way, got up there. It was a very hot day. I was cramping in my arms and stuff like that. It's pretty hard work riding a big motorbike, long distances. So got up there, pretty dehydrated. Decided we'd go and buy some alcohol. We were meeting a mate I hadn't seen for 20 years. So went up and bought some alcohol, brought the wrong alcohol. Thought I'd brought some low. I mean, I don't drink much alcohol, hardly at all, maybe once a month or something like that. 1 glass of wine, 2 glasses of wine. So I'd knocked the alcohol on the head and the coffee after being on Carnivore for 5 or 6 years. Got up there. We brought some alcohol. I thought it was low strength, but it turned out to be 8%. It was it was ginger beer, must be another bad thing, and it was quite high, and it was quite big bottles. And because I was dehydrated, I knocked them back pretty quickly. I got offered a couple of cheesecake things which I hadn't eaten for 7 years, so I smashed them in as well. So I did a bit of a breakout after 6-7 years of carnivore. I did some stuff I hadn't done for 6-7 years. So I took some charcoal before I went to bed and ended up with massive cramping during the night. Huge, 2 or 3 muscles at a time all night, just cramping up from the whatever I'd eaten and taken and dehydration. Instead of drinking water, I was drinking alcohol. I just let loose because I hadn't seen this guy for 15 years, I think it was. It's relaxing from the stressful ride, got severe constipation from it, and that led to what I've got now, which is IBD. So I've ended up with that, and then at about the 3-month mark, they diagnosed a bowel cancer. So that was diagnosed about 3-month mark after they did all the tests and all that, and I sort of knew something was coming. Didn't expect that, I suppose. I did think there was something wrong, and I wasn't surprised, but I was shocked. And I looked at my lifestyle, and my lifestyle was really good. I was under no stress. Life was going really good. I'd put on weight. Everything was, blood was good. Everything was good. But I was, I'm slightly spiritual, religious, whatever you want to call it. And I was sort of thinking, God's got something coming for me, and I've been thinking that for about a year, and all these numbers, the angel numbers kept turning up. 555 kept turning up. 555 means things are going to change and things are going to happen. So I always, all my life, God has looked after me. And all through my life, I've had I suppose, knowing around someone being up there, had it shown to me that many times that there's something up there guiding me and looking after me, because I should have been dead I don't know how many times. I lived a fairly high risk lifestyle, had a subconscious death wish, I think. Did some pretty dangerous shit, on motorbikes and at work and all that sort of stuff. But I always knew something was there. And before this happened, I said, something's coming. And then when it came, it was like, I didn't expect that, God. I expected something different. But, I got that diagnosis, and I took it. At first, I was a bit shocked, because I'd look at my kids and go, oh, God, I don't want to do this to you, and, you got the death sentence put on you and all that sort of crap. And so it was a bit of a shock, but not a shock. I knew something was turning up. I took it as a way of changing what I've been doing for the last 20 years. So I looked at it in a positive light that, I've got some learnings to do. I've got to change the way I do stuff, and that was the learning from it. So I took that on board. I looked at the diet and went, well, the diet's great. As I said in the last podcast, I'd cancelled all my life insurance because there was just no point for it. My wife was a major income earner at this time, where before she wasn't, I was. So we had some huge bills for insurance. I cancelled all my life insurance because, I'm on a perfect diet. I'm not going to get cancer. Blah, blah, blah. Didn't turn out. So the first thing that happened was, geez, was it the diet? Was it the diet that caused this? And I sort of, no, that's not the diet. So let's look into what did cause this thing. And it was fairly obvious. I just straight away I went, well, for 20 years I've been not sleeping. For 20 years I've been stressed out. For 20 years, this has been going on. And it was fairly obvious that I'd ignored a whole bunch of stuff in my life, because it was. And look, I'd been to doctors, specialists, naturopaths, supplement pushers, you name it, I'd done it. And no one had ever said, well, what's your stress levels like? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you doing anything for yourself? I was a big meditator in the 90s. I used to meditate quite long, an hour at a time type thing as a labourer. And then when the kids got born, it said we had 3 under 5 in 2000. The first one was born, and my meditation stopped. I remember a doctor asking me after about 5 year mark, he said, do you ever have any time to yourself? And I said, no, mate, I don't have 1 minute, literally, to myself, and haven't had for years. So it was fairly obvious when I looked at it. I went, oh, right, there was all this stuff I hadn't dealt with that was in the background. So I suppose the major message I've got is you can do the diet as much as you like. But if you have got stress in your life, lack of sleep, and there's a few other things that you're not dealing with, potentially could end up like I've ended up with this diagnosis. So that's the message I really want to get out there. Work on everything. It's a whole thing. You can have the most perfect diet in the world, and I was strict, and I still ended up with something that I didn't really see coming. It was a bit of a shock, but anyway, it's been an interesting journey since then. And it's just working. I'm working on the mental aspect of it all, and the trauma that I hadn't dealt with. The trauma, which is important. My father died in 1976 of a brain tumour when I was 15, and that led to the alcohol and drug abuse, led to the risk behaviour, led to the family unit breaking down. I never dealt with all that and all the abuse that I put myself through. It's amazing the body's, honestly, what I put it through, the body survived until now, really. But the warning signs were there, 20 years of rashes, 20 years of not sleeping. It was all there, and I just kept toughing it out and pushing through and doing all that sort of stuff as you do. You just get on with life, and instead of just saying, look, I need time out, I need to look after myself instead of looking after everyone else, which is hard for me to do. I tend to like to help people, and I like to do stuff for people. I get, I suppose, satisfaction out of doing that. But yeah, the people pleasing, all that sort of stuff is a big part of it. And look, when I got involved in the water fast, and most people talk about that, but later, the oncologist that led it basically said the people that come through, and she's seen over the years, it's the people pleasers, it's people in stress, people that haven't dealt with their trauma. The majority of the patients are coming through with cancer. Because the old thing is, well, you've got a great diet here, you've got cancer. Well, even the vegans get cancer. There's all sorts of people get cancer. You've got the guy that smokes and drinks, doesn't get cancer. So what's the correlation? And I've always said that, there's certain people out there that drink and smoke and laugh a lot, and the laughter, I think, overpowers the negative shit they're putting in. It was my theory for many years that, how does this guy survive so long? And, and yet I'm eating a perfect diet, and so that's my major message is don't rely on the diet for everything. Yeah, it's good. It'll reverse a hell of a lot of physical symptoms, but why have you got these? Why are you overweight? Why are you eating crap? Why are you poisoning yourself with alcohol? And you've got to look into yourself and go, well, what's it all about? Why am I doing this? Because alcohol is a poison. Let's face it. That's all it is. Look, not to say you can't have it, but cut it down at least, So, yeah, it's been a good, long process. What's going on?
Yeah, I think, it just made me think deeper. Really thank you for sharing that. I feel like it goes beyond carnivore, because you also talked about, the trauma, also the stress, the lack of sleep. They're all like a major contributor, to the, not just because you're reversing some physical symptoms. There's so much more to it. Kent, so what is your motivation now? Do you feel like, is it to spread awareness to people? I know you turned some people around you like to become animal based, and also, some of your children. Are you frustrated with the current medical guidelines, the nutrition? You talk about like, plant-based psyops for a long time. Like, what is your motivation now?
Motivation now is basically, for me, for a start off, is lead by example. I want to lead by example, so not just talking about stuff. I want to help people go animal-based. That's my major motivation in life. When we had the children, obviously when you got children, you spend all your time with them. And look, I was working away, which was another most probably problem. I was working away from home, 7 on, 7 off top arrangement. So I was working at mines, away from the family, mostly half the year at least. So yeah, that was another issue. I didn't like to do it, but I had to do it. And it's just getting on top of that. Sorry, what was the question again?
Yeah, the motivation now, like,
Yeah, totally about helping other people, helping, physically. Yeah, this will help you, no doubt about it. There's so many stories on Dave's site, so many good stories out there about people that have changed every condition you can think of. But the motivation is to help them out with that, but also to make them understand that there are other parts of, it's not just what you put in your mouth that's going to, have an effect on you. You've got to deal with. Look, I never dealt with my trauma. When my father was dying. Sorry, he got 9 months. He got the bone pointed at him, and they told him he had 9 months to live. And that was it. They treated him with chemo and radio, and his hair fell out. He got fat. He turned yellow. It was a horrible thing to see what happened to him. He had a brain tumor. There's no way they could cure it, so they just dosed him up with poison for the last 9 months of his life. I learnt to block it out. After about 3 months of crying myself to sleep, I started to say, "Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Don't think about it." And I just say that over and over at night. when I went to bed. And after a while, I didn't think about it. And I didn't think about it ever again until now. I completely blocked it out. To the point when he died, I wanted to go out partying, and I never thought about him again. I've never had a picture. I don't know where he's buried. It's nothing. And he was the best father in the world. So it was. I always knew it was a problem, but I didn't want to address it because everything was going well. I've been to a few shrinks, and over the last 20 years, and should I deal with this? Oh no, life's going all right. Keep going. And I thought, life's pretty good. I've got a good family, and everything's going pretty fine. No point dealing with it, so I didn't. But now I've had to. I've been forced into it to deal with that stuff, to try to look after myself better, to maybe leave the career I'm in. The career I was in was something forced on me to a certain extent because of the financial situation we're in. It was something that it was helping people because I'm in the safety profession and in a very extremely, risky environment where people die and get seriously injured pretty constantly. So I was in this dangerous industry, which once again, I was my risk profile meant I liked the adrenaline of it all. Having the phone on at night and getting that phone call in the middle of the night and all that stuff was all part of my risk-based behaviour. So I liked that thing that was I was really in a business that was just full on and 24/7 and dangerous and with very aggressive people and management. So that's what drew me to it. Was just the whole risk thing. Was just I loved it. Simple as that. Now I look at it and go, "Oh, geez, all that stuff you're doing, it's caught up." So it's caught up after a long time. So here we are.
Yeah, it is a very stressful environment. Wow. Yeah, I can just imagine because, it's making me think deeper again because, it goes beyond carnivore because the stress environment is related. And, I guess carnivore props you up, to have the nutrition in your body to deal with this, this mental things, the battle, the trauma. I feel like I don't have the exact words to explain it, but it's something else that it's like a whole battle, a bigger battle that you're facing. So what is the status now, like with your with the cancer, with the bowel cancer? Like is it like
haven't been back. I've sort of shunned the whole industry because it's so fear-based. And look, I did a whole bunch of tests at the time. I've done 3 PET scans, CAT scans, MRIs, you name it. I've done the tests, and I'd never been in the system before. I've never spent a night in the hospital in my life. And I was in the system and I just felt like I didn't fit in. I felt, no, this is not me. I'm not meant to be here. And I just felt an alien. So, to tell you the truth, I did the 30-day water fast, and after that, we 6 weeks before getting more tests, I got more tests. Things hadn't improved. There'd been a bit of a growth in the liver, so it's moved on from the bowel, supposedly into the liver, but that's debatable. So things haven't improved. I haven't theoretically got an appointment with the oncologist on the 12th of August. I'm not sure whether I'll go or not, whether it's any point. All they do is put fear into you and tell you everything's far better now than it was in the old days and pump this poison. I mean, I don't drink coffee and have alcohol, and yet they're expecting me to punch in a whole bunch of toxic cancer-causing chemotherapy into my body. I've sort of pulled out of their system. I won't do it at this point in time. I won't do any of their stuff. I'm just going to do my thing. My thing was the water fast. I'm on a very strict paleo ketogenic diet. which I've relaxed a bit in the last week or two. But still pretty strict, pretty much line. All I eat is meat and fat. And that's it, yeah. And I measure my meals, and I try to keep my sugar levels down and my ketones up. So I'm testing all that, but I've sort of pulled back a bit from it because all of it's fear-based. It doesn't matter what you do. It's all about fear. If you don't do this, you don't take this supplement, you'll die. If you don't do this water fast, you'll die. If you don't eat the right diet, you'll die. It's all that fear-based stuff. It's out there, and it's something I don't really want to buy into. The fear. Fear's not good for your immune system. Fear's not good for anything. So I'm trying to trust in God. I have my bad days, my good days, mainly good days, but every now and then it'll be like, shit, am I doing the right thing? What's going to happen? But that's natural. I think that's quite normal, to tell you the truth. To have a bit of doubt is just the way it is. Even as an athlete, you'd go to play a game of footy and you'd have a doubt in your mind, but you still went out there and did the job. But to have doubt is actually positive. It's pushing me further. I was a couple of weeks. I was getting a bit complacent. Then I had a bit of a setback, and it's made me. And I felt I was getting complacent, just taking it. It should be right type attitude, and I'm doing everything right, and then I had a bit of a setback. So it pushed me further to do a lot more of the mind stuff. I've done a lot since this happened, dealing with my father's death and a whole bunch of other stuff. There's been a whole bunch of traumas all the way through life because I've put myself in those positions. Fatalities at work, things wrong with kids and that. So I've had a fair dose of stuff going on through my life. It's been a pretty interesting journey. Dealing with that stuff is, I'm looking at the emotion code at the moment, body code. I'm doing work with a practitioner. I'm also looking at German new medicine, which is a very positive form of, philosophy about disease and health and all that sort of stuff. So I'm doing a lot with that. German new medicine is very much shadow banned, very hard to find anything on it. But I'd recommend that to anyone that's healthy, basically, because once you understand where the disease comes from and where cancer comes from, and we'll use cancer as an example, where that comes from, then you'll be a lot freer in your mind, because what happens when you get the diagnosis, it's a shock. And what they say in German new medicine is when you get that shock, it can move into the liver. And that's what happened with me. I got the shock. The shock is, here's your diagnosis. It's not good because it's cancer, the big C word. And you've been indoctrinated all through your life about cancer. All through your life are being pushed that, it kills 1 in 2 men and all this sort of stuff. So it's, even though I knew a lot about it, I've done a lot of research since my father died, which is the reason why I was vegetarian and stuff. But still, and I knew a lot. I knew chemo was, not a great way to go. I knew radiation wasn't either. Surgery, possible. I just knew it wasn't what I was going to do. And that's life. I've also come to, look, I've done a bit of stuff on NTEs, which is near-death experiences. So I'm not scared of death at all. Zero. I suppose the thing is about my family and that. That's the only thing that's them needing to get their heads around it. If I don't succeed in this or something, I would ride my motorbike tomorrow and get killed. There's one thing all of us have got in common. Every single person on this planet is we all die. My father died at 46. I'm at 66, so I'm pretty successful compared to him. His father died at 64. The other grandfather died at 62. So I'm pretty successful. I've reached 66 at the moment. And look, my father was the richest guy in the graveyard. He was very successful, best father in the world, as far as I'm concerned, from unbiased point of view, you look at everything he did. You know, he was with us all the time. He went to all our footy games, all our athletic stuff. He was there. He was just there 100% of the time, and very successful in all ways. You know, and then that come along and it sort of shook me big time. You know, so that was a major change in my life. We go from a perfect family to you know, decimated from that thing that went on. So yeah, back to that again. So yeah, but look, doing a lot of work on stuff at the moment, and trying to get my head around. As I was saying, if you get the diagnosis of cancer, anyone here, anyone listening, anyone that's healthy, if you get that diagnosis, it's a shock. But if you look at German medicine and a few other things, it'll clear your mind. It'll go, right, this is what I've got. The body is perfect. God made us perfect. The body, the growth, and I'll call it the growth. I don't like the word cancer. It's got so many negative connotations. I've actually called the tumour Charlie, but I don't think about it. I just ignore it. Basically, I don't want to get into that. So if you study this German medicine and a few other things, you understand that the root causes of this stuff is trauma, and a few other things. Obviously, toxins can cause a problem. If you're eating heaps of toxins, smoking, drinking heaps of alcohol, it's not going to help you at all. But once you understand the body actually uses the growth as a safety mechanism, then that really frees you up to when you get the diagnosis. And there's 1 in 2 at the moment. It's for men, I think 1 in 3 for women. It's a huge percentage of people getting diagnosed with this thing. So it's really important to everyone to get their heads around this German new medicine and realizing where this thing come from, because the medical fraternity, if you ask them the question, where did it come from? They got no idea. They got no clue. Where does it come from? Where did it come from? You know, how does it get in the blood and move around the body and go to other organs? You know, where does this? They don't know. They just treat it with this experimental stuff. And if you know anything about placebo, you've got a 30% success rate with placebo. They haven't got a very good success rate with chemo at all. In Australia, I think 100,000, 110,000 people get cancer and 80,000 of them die, and some of those cancers wouldn't be life-threatening. So yeah, I haven't got a good strike rate. So anyway, I'm doing my own thing, and if I get it right, I'll be good, and if I don't, then so be it. I'll move on to somewhere else, supposedly better. So anyway, that's my view on life. So just not live in fear.
Yeah, that's very well said, Ken. Looking back at your carnivore journey now, like, were there any mistakes you did? Maybe, nothing big, or maybe something big, or, how did you learn from them, if there's any mistakes?
Oh, look, everyone makes mistakes. I suppose overeating fat. Look, I had pretty severe cramping for the first, at least 3 months, to the point I nearly had to give up because the cramps were so bad. I was waking up in the middle of the night. So, but I found out I wasn't drinking enough water, and because I monitor heat at work, I brought this pretty high-end saliva tester, and I was the only one on site working in an office that was severely dehydrated. So not drinking enough water. I'll make my own mineralised, my own electrolyte mixture up. So yeah, the mistakes were maybe too much fat at times, and maybe not doing the research and getting the electrolytes consulted into my diet. I'm up in the tropics, so it's pretty hot up here, so you need to drink a lot of water. And with one kidney, I wasn't drinking a lot of water. I had no thirst mechanism. So apart from that, I went pretty strict because I was so desperate to get better. Life wasn't real fun. Just every day sick. I'd still get on with life and go to work and push through it with coffee and caffeine, and just I'd push through it and go harder and just keep pushing through it. Like you do as a sportsman, I suppose. You just push through stuff, you get an injury, you keep going, you just keep going. And I kept going until I stopped. This is right about now. I'm trying to stop, and it's hard for me to stop. Being busy is something I enjoy. Complicine is something I enjoy. So for me to stop is I don't want to stop, to tell the truth. I like being busy, but it's the mindset around being busy. It's I always still feel a little bit like I feel like I still haven't got everything done. I still feel a little bit of anxiety around, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to do this. This hasn't been done, that hasn't been done. And so there's that mental thing in there where I should just got to take time. And I'm getting better. I'm taking time out to meditate. I'm taking time out to go for a walk in the morning and watch the sunrise. And so I'm definitely making improvements in my life, but I've still got that little bit of anxiety around stuff I've got on my to-do list. So I'm working on that at the moment to get rid of that anxiety and not put that pressure on myself all the time to people please could be part of it. I'm doing a bit of work at the moment. I'm doing about 10 to 20 hours a week based from home. So that's pretty good. But once again, I've got to look after myself. So I'm right to the emotional side of it now. I've done a lot of therapy. The water fast, we would meet up. This is quite relevant here. When I first started the water fast, I only found out about it about 5 days before I started. And it was a bit of a rush to get all the blood tests done, get on the water fast. She accepted me on the Sunday. We started on the Monday. And in the water fast, I would have... you'd have 2-hour meetings every morning. There were 13 people in the first group. 4 of them were medical practitioners, 3 from America and 1 from England. So there were a whole bunch of medical people in the group doing this water fast. We'd do 2-hour session every morning, checking all our vitals. We had 20 vitals to go through, urine, bowel movements, heart rate, blood pressure, glucose, ketones, etc., etc. So we went through that for the first hour, and then the next hour she brought in people to work with trauma and the mind stuff and releasing stuff, because she said that's the most important thing we can do is release all this stuff. So everyone, that was part of the program, was just to deal with all the mental aspects of why we're here, why all of us are here, and it was a pretty interesting process. I'd watched a series called Australia Alone. Once again, God stepped in, and I don't watch TV much, hardly at all, never have. And this show turned up, and me and the wife started to look at it, and I really loved it because it was so psychological. They'd drop these people out in the middle of nowhere, and they would go for 2 months without basically eating and having to function as well. So, and the psychology of the people that won the shows, because they get $500,000 or $250,000 when they win it. So they throw them out in the bush with nothing apart from 10 items they can take, and a lot of times in very cold areas, and they would have to survive, and you follow their journeys. And it was I found it fascinating to watch the psychology of the people that were doing it and the psychology of the people that won it. So that we did a binge for about 2 or 3 weeks before I found water fasting, which I'd never heard of before, really. It's another thing that people have got to realise, that fasting is a natural thing that we do as humans, and I'd recommend that to anyone. So did the 30 days, went in there knowing that it wasn't a big deal. I could do it. As people say, I'd die for my children. Well, for me to not eat 30 days for my children wasn't a big stretch. I knew I was going to do it. The only way they were going to tag me out was because of my weight loss. Before I went into the fast, I dropped from 81 kilos in April to in March next year, in 2026, I dropped to 71 kilos. A lot of that was blood loss. I had a fairly serious blood loss after the constipation, hemorrhaged for a couple of days, big time. So I lost a lot of blood. I lost a lot of weight. So I went from 81 to 71. I went into the fast and dropped down to 59 kilos. And that was the only way I was getting, I knew I'd do it. It wasn't a big deal. If this is what I've got to do for my children, then so be it. So I just went in there, and the documentary Australia Alone, that really helped because I knew it was possible. I'd seen people do it. It's 30 days when they'd done 2 months out in the middle of nowhere. I was just at home, so it was tough in a way, but not because I knew I was going to do it, and that was that. So it wasn't let's just do it, and it went pretty quick. But yeah, it was an interesting thing. Lost a heap of weight, but yeah, so here I am now trying to put weight on again.
That's a very interesting process. I'm actually gonna read up on it, after this podcast. Kent, so what does a typical day or week of eating for you look like now? Do you keep it consistent, or do you mix things up from time to time? You mentioned lion diet and the water fasting. Yeah. Maybe you can walk me through.
Yeah, so I always knew I was going to do the KPD diet. I think it's PKD diet, paleo ketogenic diet. And it's a lady over in Budapest in Hungary. So I always knew that because she had done some studies on, fatal or, the brain tumours, incurable brain tumours, and she'd done work with the diet on reversing those sort of things. So I always knew that I was going to go down that. So we paid for a 2-week sort of consult where she managed the food I was eating. So at the moment I'm weighing my food and getting less strict about that. But so I'll weigh my food. I'll weigh the amount of protein I'm going to take in because protein obviously can turn to sugar and does. So I weigh the protein, I weigh the fat, and so I'm eating. I just cut it all up at the moment and weigh it all and then cook it all up. So that's been going on for quite a while now. So pretty strict. When I did that PKD diet, they took everything out, as in they took out deodorant, toothpaste, you name it, everything. I was only doing meat and water, water and fat. That's all I was doing. Nothing else was going in, so they could monitor all my vitals and work out what the ratio I needed and all that sort of stuff. But unfortunately, they had a mindset that I needed to lose weight, and I started to lose weight. I'd just gone from 59 to 68, and then I started losing weight because they put me on a really restrictive thing, and I started losing weight again. So, started dropping again. They stopped me exercising, which was a pain in the ass because I've exercised all my life, and I find exercise helps me sleep. I find exercise is good for my mind, but they said no exercise at all. And I'm like, I've just spent 3 months not exercising, This is unheard of for me. I've always exercised all my life. I believe that humans naturally are made to exercise, whether it's hunting or whatever. It's not something we've stopped in the last 100 years. Exercise in those days was going out and hunting animals or whatever you did. So exercise is a normal part of life, and I believe it's like drinking water and fresh air. Exercise is something I do every day, and yet they stopped me for 3 months. Struggled to sleep, and I've always had trouble. If I don't exercise for 2 days, I can't sleep, and that's always been the case. I've had high energy levels all my life. I'm an identical twin. I'll throw that in there as well. I've got someone else like me out there. We've been the same body shape, always been heavy for our height and all that sort of thing. And look, when all this come on, I sort of said to myself, well, what's the difference between him and me? And we asked that question, and there's a couple of things he's done differently. He's always surfed, so he's a surfer. So he's out in nature all the time. He's grounding himself all the time. And look, I do grounding and all that sort of stuff, but I'm not in nature as much as I should be. He also has fasted the last 30 or 40 years, I think. So he's always done fasting. It's something I've done a 5-day one once before, but it's something that we all of us, every single one that's listening to this should think about doing. It's our natural thing that we do as human beings and have done for hundreds of thousands of years, is to not go without food. and that's our process. Ketosis and all that has been, God's put this in, so when we go without food, we can still function. So on this water fast, I was functioning. My brain was going as good as gold. No problem at all. The energy was towards the end started getting a bit low, but the brain still functions because the body has to function in starvation mode. Otherwise, the human race would die out. So my brain was as good as gold. I could get on the computer, do anything, talk to anyone. Brain was rocking and rolling because all the ketones are getting supplied to the brain, so the hunter can go out and hunt, and survive. It's incredible, the mechanism of it. Even at 30, I never lost a bit of my sharpness. Not that at this age you're that sharp anyway, but so I never lost that all the way through the fast. My brother also meditated. He hasn't stopped. He didn't have the stress I had. So there's all these little signs that some things he did better than me. He's a pretty cruisy guy, so he surfs. He's a carpenter. He still uses his hands. He surf takes priority over work, sort of thing. And he's going pretty good. But that's not to say he won't in the future. But he did some things that I went, right, I can understand what he's doing, and the surfing I think is a major thing. Getting out there in the ocean and grounding and earthing and being in the water, and that's natural for us to do that sort of stuff and put our bodies into a little bit of uncomfortableness, especially in New Zealand where he's at the moment. It's cold as hell over there, so I don't know how he does it, to tell the truth. But anyway, so he's been quite successful doing all that sort of stuff. So it's quite interesting. You're looking at stuff. Yeah. I thought, I played Russian roulette. I got away with it. I thought I'd got away with everything, but it came around and bit me in the ass. But anyway, that's life. We move on.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's pretty awesome. Kent, so what is the hardest thing? Is there anything hard about being carnivore for you? Some examples of this would be social gatherings with family and friends who are non-carnivores, right? Or maybe battling the cravings in the beginning. It took me like over a year to get it out of my system. Or maybe travel, to a location where maybe they're not carnivore friendly. Or what about for you? Is there anything hard or difficult?
No, not really. I've worked through everything. The cravings for me stopped within 3 days. I was absolutely amazed that I'd got rid of the sugar cravings that quickly. That was incredible. I've done a lot of travel around Australia because of my work. I take beef jerky with me. I've got fat capsules. I've worked it out pretty well. I sometimes take my first couple of meals with me if I'm away for too long. I go to restaurants and ask for steak with no sauce and no vegetables and all that sort of stuff. So, look, I suppose at the beginning of the day, I didn't give really a shit what anyone thought about it because it's my life and I want to be healthy. And, the question I could throw back is, what are you doing that diet for? It's so restrictive. And I said, well, it's better than feeling sick. I've been sick for 20 years, at the point where I didn't want to live anymore, So what do you want me to do? Go back to that? Or do what I'm doing now, which is keeping me happy and keeping me strong and all that sort of stuff. So, so you want me to go and be sick again, do you? Is that what you're telling me to do? Oh, I don't need to do the diet so strictly. Well, for me, it works. And it's an animal-based diet. Simple as that. I'm eating what we're meant to eat, a few variations thrown in. So, I don't have any problems with that. The travel's all sorted out. I'll go and get, worst scenario, I'll go and get a cooked chook. But, I've sort of sorted out where I normally travel with stuff where I can just, and look, with carnivore, you can go a long time without eating. So I just, the beef jerky's there just if I feel hungry, but you don't feel hungry, So I'll jump on a plane and off I go, and I don't eat anything, and I'm feeling fine. I sort of know how to do it, and you look at videos of other people and how they do it. But I've got those fat capsules. I can use them if I need to. I carry fat with me. I'll get a big jar of fat. I make my own tallow. I'll take a big jar with me of tallow. I'll freeze it and then wrap it, and then I'll travel with it. And so I'll work my way around it. No, there's not been I don't really care what people think of me, to tell you the truth. Never really have. And it's my life, and I want to be healthy, and I'm feeling good. And and as I said, I put on muscle at 65, and quite a bit of muscle, which was more of a thing just to see if I could do it, and also to be an inspiration to people my age. That you don't have to give up, and you don't have to be weak. And this whole thing that I'm going through now, I don't want to be weak and fragile and frail. I don't see myself as that, and I don't want to be like that. And who knows, maybe I have to be, but that's not my process. I want to be fit, healthy, and strong for the rest of my days. That's what I want to be, and I want to look after myself a bit better than what I've done over the last 20 years, where I've even the last, since the 1980s, I just absolutely trashed my body, absolutely smashed it. And it's incredible this body carried on as long as it did with what I did to it. It's you look back now and you go, God. And the old thing about if you got a Ferrari, would you put shit fuel in it? I always knew that, but I always put shit fuel in, and the body was, and I think the exercise helped, because I'd get a hangover. My normal thing if I had a hangover is to run over and get my car and sweat it out. I will go to work doing heavy manual work and sweat it out. So I think exercise really helped me out, reversing the damage that I was doing via mainly alcohol and sugar. But over many, many years, but incredible the body lasted so long. Amazing. It's got God created this thing that we really trash. But the younger generation, I feel sorry for them, because, I grew up in an era where there was, we had the money to buy whatever you like. No soft drink at Christmas, KFC, McDonald's, all that stuff wasn't around when I was growing up. The kids these days are, and I see it with all my kids' friends and all that, and my kids that have got complications now, and you go, God, terrible what's going on with these kids. So I've got 2 type 1s. I've got one that's had his tonsils removed. My daughter's had grand mal seizures, kidney failure, and she's as healthy, but the kids these days, the poisons are put in the food and the vegetables, and they're full of glyphosate and all that stuff. I'm pretty lucky. I pretty much sourced in COVID a food supply locally, so I get my meat delivered half a cow at a time, very cheap, at least a third of the price of the butcher. It's not technically organic, but I know the rancher or the farmer, as a person, because I've been dealing with it for 4 or 5 years now. It's basically organic, grass-fed, grass-finished, delivered to my door at a quarter of the price of where I can buy it outside. So I get this stuff delivered. It can be a little bit tough because it's growing up here, so I'm basically eating an organic diet. So that was another thing when all the stuff come around. I'm eating perfectly. I'm doing everything right. I've got the meat supply locally, and it was like, there was no toxins going on at all. There was nothing, really. Bit of coffee every now and then. Pretty pure at the end. So it wasn't the diet that was causing my issues. It was the other stuff.
This is pretty good. I mean, you're pretty much sorted everything out, and I agree. You can go for a while without eating with carnivore. I think that's a major factor. Like me, I can play tennis for like a long time. Not even eat breakfast and lunch when I used to eat like 3 to 4 meals per day. But Kent, so if you had to describe the impact of carnivore in your life in one word, how would you describe it, and tell me why?
One word. I suppose if we're going to use one word, the realization that it's a species appropriate diet. That's what it's done in my life. Is I've realised that all the supplements, all the veggies, all the fruit, you don't need it, So the realisation that God made us perfect, but He made us to eat a certain diet in a certain way is the big thing for me. It took me a couple of years to realise that it is a species appropriate diet. I've looked at all the other animals out there, and I've been down, because I was into all this space for years. A metabolic typing diet, blood type diet, Ayurvedic diet, you name it. I've looked at it and done it. And all these things complicate stuff to a certain extent, make something that's fairly basic complicated, so they can peddle their stuff. Ayurvedic, where's the science behind it? Look, I've had good results from it. But you look at the Indian race, and I don't know. So the species approach. I mean, you look at a cow, for example. A cow's got 11 different types of blood. Do the cows complain about the grass they're eating? Koalas they eat gum leaves. Every animal eats its species appropriate diet, apart from humans and humans' pets. And they all get cancer and they all get sick. My dog's a carnivore, has been all his life. He's never been to the vet. I wouldn't feed him any of that poison. So the species appropriate diet, the realisation that this is a species, and most people can't get their heads around this, that it's that simple. It's a species appropriate diet. I think I looked at chimpanzees, and might be wrong, they had 6 different blood types. Do they go and eat a certain, this chimpanzee says, no, I can't eat that, it's not my blood type. So people use it, it's good for you, but it's not good for me, or, what about your blood type? It's got nothing to do with it. We're meant to eat a certain way, just like cows are meant to eat grass, and they don't complain, they've got 11 blood types in the cow, and they don't complain about the grass they're eating, they all eat the same stuff, what they're meant to eat. So what we're meant to eat is animal-based. It's pretty simple, not a big complex thing, but there's no supplements sold. There's no money around it, which is another thing. You look at all these doctors that go at Carnivore, they've put their careers on hold. They've lost a heap of money. These guys are on big bucks, and for them to leave it behind and go out on this approach is pretty gutsy, and good on them for doing it. Even the oncologist I went through, Dr. Katie Deeming, she had to leave her. She was at the top of her game, and she had to leave the system and leave all that money on the table. She's getting a fortune, getting paid. She's one of the top in America, and she got a divorce out of the whole lot. So for her to follow her heart was a big issue. So all these doctors, you got to give it to them. It's just animal based. This is all I can say. If you can make it 90%, anyone out there, even haven't got health problems, just make it 90% animal based. And if you want to have an avocado here and there or a bit of fruit, knock yourself out. If you can get away with it, go for your life. But how many people are addicted to food? Our whole society is revolved around, we've got to have taste and we've got to have pleasure, and if not eating the stuff is restrictive, and yet all they are is addicted to the pleasure of eating, which is fine. But if you've got health issues, then you need to have a good look at what you're eating. That's a start, and then do all the other stuff as well. And a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about is free. Fresh air is free, nature's free, meditation's free. I started to realise about 3 or 4 years ago that all the good stuff that none of these people recommend, I'm talking is naturopaths, bloody, all of them, never recommend all the free stuff. And the free stuff's there for all of us. The stress is our problem. We create it. I created it with the not looking after myself, doing jobs that were stressful. It's all created by ourselves, and all the free stuff. Water's pretty free, just got to filter it. The meat's not free, but it's pretty cheap when you get down to it. but all the natural, you got all this stuff that's free that will make a huge difference in your life. Instead of taking the magic pill, which everyone, including myself, the magic pill that's going to fix me. Oh, I've got a new supplement. There's so much. And look, in this space I'm at the moment, I just get thrown all this stuff all the time. And the research required to, ivermectin, febendazole, urine therapy, you name it, I get thrown all this stuff. I just haven't got time to look into it, So, I've just sort of, it just takes time to look into them all, but it's all fear-based. Take this, otherwise you'll die type of shit, and I'm over that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Kent, so knowing what you know now about carnivore and the nutrition, if somebody comes up to you, because you've had great success with carnivore, and they might be having some chronic issue and they see the success you've had, but they're very skeptical, right? What would you tell them? Do you tell them to try maybe a month or a cold turkey approach?
No. I tend to look. I'm developing a course at the moment for beginners, so I'm developing that to help people get through the first month. And what I recommend is the first month to start it slowly, bit by bit. Obviously, that's probably the most logical thing to do. Some people will just say, "No, I'm going to cut it," and that's fine for them if that's the way they want to do it. But they've got to be aware of the side effects, not the risks, but the side effects are cramping, diarrhea, all that sort of stuff. But if they're the sort of person that just wants to jump into it and smash themselves and knock yourself out, that's what you want to do. I recommend, like anyone that's recommending stuff, it's slowly, take your time, do 1 month, see how you feel at the end of the month, and then commit to mostly doing 3 months to get the full effect out of it. So that's the approach I've got. As I said, I've got a manual that I've put out that you can do your own research, and I think you need to do your own research. The most important thing, I think, is to get a doctor that's aware of what you're doing, because you're going to get a hard time from doctors for sure. I also recommend doing blood tests before you start, because then you can not throw that back in their faces when people say, "Well, it's dangerous," or "How come all my markers have got better? How come I've lost weight? How come I'm feeling 100%?" When people give you that criticism. And look, I would definitely get a doctor that understands. Otherwise, you're just going to get the same old. Your cholesterol's too high. You need to take this drug, and this is dangerous. So find a low carb doctor if you can, and deal with them, so you don't have to put up with all that stuff. Do your research so that you can. And as I said on that document I've got, that's the research about cholesterol and all that. There's plenty out there, but you need to get confident about, because people are going to dump shit on you all the time. They are. It's just the way it is. Because they're brainwashed, like I was. Everyone's brainwashed, and the media are pumping it out all the time. Just plant-based. So if they're pumping it out, then it can't be healthy for you. They're not pumping out what is healthy for you. Get a good doctor, do the blood tests, take it slowly, bit by bit, and at 3 month mark, have a look at the results, I suppose. And as Dr. Judy Chow, I hope I got that name right, she deals with people that do carnivore that don't get 100% better, and I'm definitely in that camp. I never got 100%, but I got 90, 80, 90% better. But it was always there in the background. If I broke out of the carnivore mold and tried to do something for a couple of days, drink a bit of alcohol over Christmas, eat a few homemade treats, I would really suffer for it. I would suffer for months, just about. It was terrible to go off the diet and have a cheat. And the cheat that happened with me up on the motorbike ride, that was a weekend of cheating. A bit of ice cream and cake and all that sort of stuff, and that absolutely smashed me. The constipation was unbelievable. It was terrible. It was nearly go to hospital and get dug out type stuff. You know, it was absolutely terrible. And that ended up ripping stuff and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, one of the major advice is get a good doctor, do the blood test, do it slowly. That would be what I'd suggest. And then as you're going through all this, work on the other stuff. You can't have stress in your life and think that you're going to go through life without problems. You can't not deal with trauma. You've got to face it and deal with it. Yeah, the diet's fantastic. Don't get me wrong. I'm here to promote the diet. I'm doing the diet. And I'm still doing it. I'm doing it pretty hard. Wouldn't call it hard, but, you know, I don't find it hard doing. When I'm hungry, I eat. When I'm not hungry, I don't. So it's pretty easy for me. I've just got used to it. I don't find it restrictive. I just enjoy when I'm hungry, I enjoy a good steak. Or enjoy a bit of meat and a bit of fat. So when I'm hungry, it looks good. When I'm not hungry, I couldn't think of anything worse than eating a steak. Where when I was a carb addict, I'm not hungry, but I could eat some corn chips. So I could eat this thing or I could eat that thing because you just never satisfied with the carb-based thing, you know, corn chips. I mean, I was an overeater too because I could. I'd get a bag of corn chips and eat the whole lot and feel sick every time I ate it, you know. I'd feel like, oh, why did I do that? But just so nice. Now I don't even look at it the same way. I don't look at food that way. I look at it as fuel for my Ferrari. But yeah, so I'm putting pretty good fuel in the Ferrari now, but I just need to sort out this other stuff, and that's a slow process. Yeah, it's going to be interesting times. It's been an interesting year, I suppose, put it mildly.
Yeah,
8-9
great
months. It's been
suggestion.
something I didn't see coming, and something I never thought would happen. And yeah, so yeah, it's been interesting times. That's for sure.
Yeah, very great suggestion. Yeah, I do like that. You know, suggesting bringing in a doctor who at least, you know, go with the low carb. I think that's fantastic. Yeah. And then you know, doing your research along the way. Yeah. What about for people who have been carnivore for over a year, and then let's say they start experiencing, you know, they experience all the benefits inside that first year, but then the next year they're starting to feel, you know, something's not right, something's not working. They're probably experiencing oxalate dumping or keto flu, but they don't know it. Or maybe they're lacking electrolytes. Maybe they're just like guesstimating, you know, like how much fat they should eat or like the meat. Do you think they should just like reach out to another carnivore who might have had a similar experience? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. And look, I've covered all that in that manual I can give to anyone. And basically, it's after a year, you need to look at. Look, you should start off properly for a start off, and that's what I do with this course I'm doing, and also with the manual. Is, you know, this is the way you start. This is what you need. You need to have electrolytes because of, you know, carbohydrate. You're going to dehydrate your cells. So all that sort of stuff I put in there, and that's in the first 30 days. You've got to start drinking a bit of water, electrolytes, look at your fat ratio, maybe take enzymes if your gallbladder can't keep up with it. I didn't know about oxalate dumping until about 3 years after I started. And look, I did a lot of green juices. Instead, I had a machine back in 1999. That was, as I said, $900. It was top of the best machine in the world for juicing. So I did a lot of juicing, a lot of kale, a lot of spinach, a lot of silver beet. You name it, I was doing it. And you know, if anyone had oxalates, it was me. I don't know what the side of, because I didn't know, but I definitely pointed out to people, you know, that you've got to be aware of these things. If you're taking lots of oxalates, to slowly, and then obviously read Sally Norton's book or listen to Sally Norton's book and find out about it. If you come from a vegetarian background, chances are you have eaten a lot of this stuff. So yeah, at the year mark, if you just look at what's getting better. And if it's not getting better, then you need to look at other things. And Dr. Judy Chow sort of goes down that path pretty heavily. I think she's moved into the food and the supplements and the psychology of it all too. If something isn't completely right, then you need to start to look at other stuff in your life and work on that as well. And I said stress and trauma are the two biggies. People pleasing, if you're a people pleaser, then you need to cut back on people pleasing and look after yourself. Because, as I find now, I've been a people pleaser and always helping out and all that sort of stuff. It comes back and bites you. You need to look after yourself, otherwise you can't look after the others. Like I'm in this predicament now, and I want to look after my kids and be around for my kids and my granddaughter and all that sort of stuff. But by not looking after me and stopping the meditation and stopping the and being busy and stressed and all that stuff, I haven't looked after me, and I just thought I was bulletproof. I thought I was Superman and I could just get away with stuff, and I thought I was going to get away with it. All the stuff I've thrown at myself, and really I should have had a good look at myself, or someone should have identified it, but no one ever did. And that's a bit disappointing when you go to the natural health people and no one ever looks into the actual things behind your health problems, and look at the stress and look at the trauma and look at that side of it instead of just throwing pills at you. And the advice I'd give everyone is, if you're doing the diet and you're doing it well, what else is going on in your life? You've got to clean that up as well. It's not just do the diet as a start off. That's a good start. Get that done, and then look at the other things to eventually just gradually improve. It took me 4 years to stop the alcohol. It took me 4 or 5 years to stop the coffee. It wasn't a big deal. I don't say to people just stop straight away. Just do it easy. If you want to drink, cut it down. If you want to have a coffee, knock yourself out. But eventually, when the time's right, knock it on the head. But don't tell people to knock it. Like say if I'm going carnivore tomorrow, right? I'm going to stop alcohol because that's plant, and I'm going to stop coffee because that's a plant. You're going to really struggle. I don't suggest you do that unless you want to. If you want to stop it all and have the headaches and all the other stuff that goes on with it, knock yourself out. But I don't suggest that. When the time's right. And for me, when the time was right, it was just so easy. It was just natural. On carnivore, you tend to not tolerate poison too well, and the longer you go, the less you tolerate it. So with alcohol, if I drink 2 glasses of wine, well, I feel it the next day big time. And what it does to your blood sugar levels is amazing. Alcohol, it's no good for you whatsoever. So. Yeah, that would be my advice is at the year mark is have a look at the other stuff around you. There's some underlying issues that you might have dealt with, because if you're eating an animal-based diet, you should be getting pretty good. But if you're stressed, working too long, too busy, anxious, whatever, you've got to look at yourself or work with someone that can, like say with a coach, for example. And I've done the Carnivore International coaching program. They definitely look at all that sort of stuff. So you get a coach. I'm not registered with them yet, but get a coach, someone that can help you and point you in the right direction. It is important. People spend a lot of money on diets and that. Dieting, a lot of people diet all the time and never get a good result or put it back on again. But yeah, maybe get a coach, and they can help you out. And when you come up against problems, they might know the answer, or there might be forums out there you know the answer. I'm using a bit of AI at the moment that can come up with some remarkable results and help you. So yeah, that's what I remember. At the end of the year, if you're not totally 100%, then have a look at the other stuff that's in the background and start taking time out for yourself and looking after yourself, as making that a number one priority, which is hard to do for some of us people pleasers, is to put yourself first. It feels selfish, but in reality, if you can't give out love if you're not in a loving space. You can't give out good energy if you're not in a good space yourself. So the important thing is to look after yourself, and I'm saying that to myself now, and I'm still trying to reinforce it, because I slip back into being Superman and helping everyone else out instead of actually taking time for myself and putting myself first. It's not selfish. It's just a smart way to do it. Put yourself first, and then you got plenty of time for your children and plenty of time for you're happy and all that sort of stuff. So they don't want to see your kids don't want to see you sick and unhealthy. They want to see you strong and fit and all that sort of thing. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's about it.
Really like that message, about stopping, being a people pleaser, and also, the looking at it with the other underlying issues. Also, like the whole, look at the carnivore coaches, for suggestions, right? Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Definitely.
Kent, my last question for you is, your future outlook about this carnivore thing. How do you see carnivore in the next 5 to 10 years? Do you see it being in the good or the bad? The bad meaning, maybe we'll see meat prices skyrocket, or maybe we'll see a lot of pushback from the media, a lot of censorship, or maybe, falsifying the information. At the same time, the good, we hear more people talking about it, because we're seeing a lot of healing, improvement, curing, so much more. We'll probably hear some more about it in the media. What are your thoughts?
All of the above. I did a self-sabotage course with Jason Christoph, and he goes pretty deeply down the rabbit hole. Now, I've always believed that carnivore, and as I said, the species appropriate diet, as it gets bigger, they will attack us big time. At the moment, we're not big, but they will attack us eventually, and they will try to take it down. They will put false information out there, because they own the newspapers. They own everything. Big money, when you look at the Seventh-day Adventist Church and all that stuff, there's big money around cornflakes and processed food. You can't make as much money out of a cow. They want us, this is a bit controversial, they want us weak. They want us sick, because as cattle, we're easier to control. Now, that's a bit out there, but I've been around this space for a long, long time. They will eventually attack the Sean Bakers, the Ken Berries, all that sort of mob. Once they get big enough, they will come to take them down. And I've seen it before in the cancer space, and that with doctors. There's one doctor over in America that's been through the courts for the last 30 years. He cures incurable brain tumours. They just drag him through court over and over again. He wins every case. They keep dragging him through it. So they, and it might sound a bit conspiratorial and all that sort of stuff, but the people way up the top feed us rubbish, have done for 50 years, about the animal, the plant-based thing. It's not a natural diet. So, yeah, I can see attacks coming through the mainstream media for sure. And I can see it now. It's out there now. They're trying to discredit it. And, look, I can understand that too, because it does sound weird, only eating meat and fat. And, it does sound a bit crazy, really. But as I said, once you look into the whole animal-based thing and the species-appropriate diet, it's not crazy. It's actually logical, and it's basic. It's really basic, And I'd say to people, it's just basic. We're meant to eat certain foods, and that's it. The whole agrarian growing crops and harvesting cattle, and we've only been doing that for 10,000 years, The rest of the time we were hunting and grabbing food, and plants weren't a big thing in our diet till 10,000 years ago, which in the scheme of things is only a dot on, 1 second and 60 minutes sort of thing of our whole evolution. So yeah, it's they will come for us, no doubt about it in my mind at all. They will come for the top people, and they will start to put stuff out in the media, and they will, they'll do their best. unfortunately for them, is that this diet and this way of living is so successful, they're going to struggle very much with dealing with it. It's going to get bigger and bigger because people get results. Simple as that. It's just that simple. And when they see results, as I said, when they saw my results, heaps of people around me started doing it, and they got really good results too. And you see when they fall off it, the results come back. I've got a couple of friends that, the weight's gone on, the anxiety's come back, all that sort of stuff when they go off it and go back to their normal way of living in Western society. But yeah, there will be attacks for sure. I've been waiting for years to see when, Baker would be discredited and all these other guys would be, pushed back on. But at the moment, we're small. Once we get a bit bigger, there's going to be attacks left, right, and centre. It'll just be constant. Dangerous diet. It's killing people, and someone like me that gets bowel cancer, and they'll point at that. But yet the other 40,000 people in Australia that get bowel cancer are living a normal life. I'm the one guy. They got a carnivore diet that did that to them. Well, if it was, I wouldn't be doing it. I thought that, and I had a good look at it. I went, well, no, it's not the diet. And then what is it? So yeah, anyone dies of a heart attack or a car crash, they'll blame it on the carnivore diet because he's driving the car and he's carnivore. He had a heart attack because he's carnivore. No, that's not the case. 99% of the time it won't be the case. It'll be something else. So yeah, they will come for us, no doubt about it. They are already, but we're not that big. But the money thing behind the processed food industry, it's huge. They make massive profits. Putting supplements in our food is poisonous. It's just poison. They feed us poison. So why isn't the government stopping it? That's the question you got to ask. I've known for 20 or 30 years. 30 years ago, I said, how come they put GST on fresh fruit, vegetables, and how can they tax that food and meat? Why don't they just release the tax from it so that the food's really cheap so that people can eat really good food? And I thought that 30, 40 years ago. Now that I know why they don't do it, I understand, that it's not an accident. It's intentional because it's so easy to do. I'd go, how come the government don't do that? I'm like really naive and trusting everyone and you couldn't work it out. It was so easy, so simple. Take the tax off the good stuff and put the tax on the bad stuff. So simple. And then we'll make people eat good food and be healthier. And why don't we advertise that, this is what we should be doing instead of just advertising, fruit and 5 veggies a day or whatever the hell it is. That's all pushed by the government. And look, all those studies that come out, and I've got a whole bunch of studies in my manual that goes to all that stuff, where the studies come from, how terrible the studies were. The 7 Day Adventist stuff's really, really good. It's a good rabbit hole to go down because it's like, wow, this was intentional. The food pyramid wasn't an accident. It was popularised by people that had a vicious interest in people eating junk. Kellogg's, obviously, in Australia it's called Sanitarium. It's still a 7 Day Adventist food company, and they're pushing cornflakes. But yeah, it's really interesting rabbit hole to go down that one with the 7 Day Adventist Church and all the rubbish around the blue zones and I've got all that stuff in my little manual. If people like the conspiracy and like to learn about what's really going on, then look down all those rabbit holes. The blue zones and the Mediterranean diet and all that stuff that we all believe in. Why do we believe in it? Because someone told us. Were they incorrect? Yeah, well, when you look into it, yeah, they were. They were just getting told by someone else, and they just hand it down as the truth. And it's an interesting journey to learn all that. Learned it a bit late, but anyway, better late than never, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. Kent, so if people want to reach out or connect with you, where's the best place to reach you?
Just send me an email at carnivorekent, I think that's the one you contacted me on. So yeah, send me an email. I'll send you out the free manual for anyone that's starting, or they know anyone that's starting. There's the manual's basically just full of links to it's some of my personal views, but not many. But mainly it's just links to videos you can go and watch and learn about your particular condition. So I've got links all the way through the document, whether you want to find out, as said, about cholesterol, heart disease, cancer, protein in kidneys. I've got all the links there if you've got one particular subject you want to learn about. Once again, I'll go back to AI if you haven't got the time. I mean, I tend to listen to a lot of stuff. I have done in the past, but I'm stopping that now just because I need a bit of quiet. I've done enough research. AI is a good thing. You can actually get AI to summarize videos, and so that'll save, instead of listening to an hour video, you could read it in 5 minutes, and that'll have the key points in there. And you might look at the summary and go, yeah, I might listen to this because it's got some worthwhile stuff. Or you can actually go to the actual part in the video that you want to listen to. So yeah, I'd recommend if you're time poor and you're not driving the car all the time and you haven't got, you're not doing a lot of housework, or you haven't got time to listen to stuff, to use AI to summarize videos. There's a program I've got here which is called Decopy, I think it's called. And yeah, that you just punch it in there and you punch the URL in there and bang, you've got a summary in 2 minutes of video. So AI can help. It's not the arch enemy. So yeah, grab the manual. That'll help anyone out that's starting. That's the plan. I'm putting a course together online, and that's free at the moment. And if anyone emails, I'll email them back and say, look, could you have a look at this and give me any criticism or any feedback that you can, because I'm putting that together at the moment with the help of AI. AI is incredible. Stuff I've done with it already is, I don't know how I could have done it without it, Saved me hundreds of hours, and I'm only just, it's incredible. So that's the idea, is I want to put a course out, and I'm sort of most of the way there. A course that's essentially free so that people can use it, because not everyone's got money, Not everyone's got the money to hire a coach. Not everyone's got the time to do the research. I want to cut through all that and do it for them. And if I can put the course out there, then it's always there. The course is also, I'm going to put in there that, you get an hour talking to me about stuff. So I'm throwing it out there just to get it out there. So, because I really believe in this diet, I want to get the word out there. And if I do it for free, then that's going to touch more people. Part of it, I'm going to, hopefully, I'm going to put some Amazon links in there so that, what I recommend to buy, and that will be, hopefully, will help with all the costs of running the program. And so that's going to be where I get the money from, is just links to stuff that I recommend. So that's the idea at this point in time. We'll see how it works. Once it's all good, maybe I'll put it in, make it a cheap cost, but nothing too out of the ordinary. I want to make it so it's available to everyone.
That's excellent, Kent. I'm going to make sure to post them all in the description. Share me the link. I want to add it. Kent, thank you so much again for joining me. Really appreciate you sharing, and I really enjoyed hearing your journey. Thank you for taking the time to share. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks for the opportunity, and have a great day, mate.